So, babe, you think we should make a video of our story?
Like how we met and all that?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I mean, sure, but is anyone actually going to care?
I mean, probably not.
Well, what if instead of making like a generic video of how we met, we make it into a series?
Go on.
So we can talk about like our beginning and dating a non-believer and sex before marriage and all that stuff.
Okay, okay.
And like each episode can peel back a different layer of our relationship, and we can give advice on like what to do and what not to do based on our experience.
That way it's not just about our story, but like insights people can take away for themselves.
Exactly. And instead of it being like a long and drawn out, video of our relationship, we can do it in parts. So it'd be shorter videos.
Okay, Jazz Spielberg, I see you out here. Let's do this then.
Right now,
Sure, why not?
hey guys, I'm Jasmine.
And I'm Dave.
And this is Engineered by God. You heard us, so we just gonna get into it. So, how we met?
Okay, so we met in 2012. I had recently changed my major to engineering, and so I was a sophomore. And at that time, I was taking the Intro to Engineering course. And I was in class one day, and if you know anything about a lot of STEM majors, it's that typically there aren't a lot of people of color in them, especially women of color.
Yeah.
And so Jasmine stuck out to me like a sore thumb. I saw her right away. And because we're in the same class, and over time we kind of decided, like, we developed a friendship essentially.
Yeah.
We started hanging out.
We started hanging out in class, and then we decided he invited me to lunch outside of class. So after class, we went to lunch and we went to Subway. And
Hold on, I do gotta say one thing though. So Jazz used to be on the rowing team, and because of that, their practices were super early in the morning, and so she would come to class looking really
busted.
comfortable. Like she would have like these big sweats and a hat on. And so I remember one time being on Facebook because I was gonna friend request her. I'm like, hold up, who is this?
And because of that, he gave me a nickname, and that's how him and his friend were referred to me. What was the nickname?
It was Undercover.
Undercover. Yeah, so we went to Subway, and we had a good time. We were just talking, eating lunch inside of Subway, and then it was all the way on the other side of campus, and so then we had to walk back to the engineering building. And on our way back, next to our building is the Tyler building, the art school basically. And so he invited me to the music room or the piano room in the art school because he would go there often to play the piano. And so I was like, this guy trying to get me. I know he playing like this is a line. He must do this with all the girls, whatever. But so I was like, okay. So I went with him to the piano room, and he was just playing, and I was in awe because I never saw someone play the piano, and he was just playing stuff like, I don't know, whatever. And so while he was playing, at the time, my favorite song was Lotus Flower Bomb, and we had talked, and he knew that. So he was playing something else, and then next thing you know, he just transitioned into Lotus Flower Bomb. Guys, guys, he got me. Hook, line, and sinker. And the rest is history. That's it.
But yeah, I think so that it wasn't much longer after that we had a video call, and I basically told her how I felt about her, and she kind of confirmed that she felt the same way about me. And so I think that was like a month in, like from the time we met to that point, a month in, where we decided, okay, we're going to like intentionally start dating and kind of just see how it goes and whatnot. And so during this time, I'm not gonna lie, I really started liking her really quickly. And part of what I liked about her was her personality,
And the way I carry
and how she
myself.
carried herself. And there was a part of me that just kind of assumed she was Christian. So I was like, "Hey, you're Christian, right?" And the reason I said that was because I had other women who were people that I really respected in my life that she kind of reminded me of. And she was like, "No, I've never read the Bible, and I probably never will." I'm like, "Oh,
Guys, I don't know. It comes out. It sounds very harsh, but that's just how it came out. I don't know. And just to give you an insight on where I was, I didn't consider myself Christian, even though a lot of people I knew did. Even though they weren't doing like Christian things, so I was like, yeah, that's not Christian, so I didn't consider myself Christian. But I did believe in God, but I didn't know who Jesus was and or anything about him, his significance, his life. Never even I barely even looked at a Bible, let alone read it. And I'm like, that's a big book. I ain't reading that. So yeah, that's pretty much where I was. But well, we'll get into that later. And where were you?
And so for me at that point in my life, I was lukewarm at best, to be honest with you. Like I was the type of Christian who was I wasn't submitting my life to Christ. I was living my life and sprinkling a little God on top. Hopefully he'll make school go well or my relationship go well. And so instead of like just being like, "Oh, this is a major red flag," I was like, maybe she kind of hangs around me, things will change. And instead of, being led by God, I was kind of like letting my emotions tell me what I should do at that point.
And basically, he decided to continue dating me just
Yeah,
because
yeah,
he liked me, even though that was a red flag and he should have walked away. But he liked me, so he continued to date me. And the thing about me also is that when we talked about it, I was verbally, I don't know what the word is, but I did, respond and tell him that, I'm not opposed to learning about Christianity and what it means and all that. So after that, we kind of just started. We continued to date, like I said, and we started doing more Christian things together. So his church and a lot of the youth that he, grew up with within the church, they were doing a lot of things, a lot of church conferences and things throughout
throughout the year and whatnot.
throughout the year and stuff. So I started going. He started inviting me to those events, and I met some of his, Christian family, so to speak, and just kind of started learning more about Christianity at, firsthand, because I didn't really know. Like I said, I didn't know anyone who was actually Christian and walking it out. So yeah, started spending more time with them, and basically our relationship came to
A crossroads, because there was a moment I want to say
this is 2012 fall semester.
in the fall, right?
Yeah.
So the fall of 2012. So
Or
maybe like
20
either
fall 2013.
it wasn't a year yet.
Fall 2013, because that summer is when we started doing more of the Christian stuff, and then next year,
Right.
when I was a sophomore.
So we were having a conversation, and I basically said that I don't really see a real future with someone who's not Christian. And what's crazy is we had a friend. I don't know if you remember. We did have a friend who was in a relationship who had recently converted to Christianity. But before that, he was in a relationship for like 8 years or so with someone who was an atheist, and she didn't convert, and had no intentions of. And they broke up, and he was like really devastated about it. And I remember like saying like I don't want to end up like that person. Like it's like I don't want to keep going and have my heart just get more like connected to you, and then now I'm gonna be devastated when we at some point have to break up. But I also wanted to make it clear, like I don't want you to feel pressured to do this because of a relationship or because of me. But that's where I was in the moment.
And that was helpful. I mean, I didn't feel pressured at all, and we still continued to date. But that definitely was at the back of my mind. And for me during that time, I was going through my own like identity issues and whatnot, and just questioning a lot of things. So I kind of decided, at that point, that I would start looking more into or pursuing, looking more into learning more about Christianity on my own and getting more serious about it. So with me going through my own identity stuff and him, kind of telling me how he felt, I was like, okay, let me just learn more about it for real. And so I started pursuing it on my own outside of him. So I reached out to a friend he had and asked her if I could start going to her church, and then I stopped going to her church and I found my own church and started learning about things. I found a church and got into a Bible study with that church, and we started both doing I was doing my own kind of discipleship Bible study. They were discipling me, and he was doing another Bible group with men, and I kind of went away from that church, and then we went to another church. But throughout this time,
I do want to say this too. It's crazy because throughout this, when this is happening, she's learning about the faith and growing. But I'm also realizing I am not really following Jesus. I'm following an idea of a God who isn't in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And so we were both being formed at the same time. Even though I had believed in Jesus Christ and his death and resurrection and she didn't, we were both kind of being built up. So it was kind of a cool thing. And it was also happening separately.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We weren't together. Our groups weren't, connected in any way. He had his own thing. I had my own thing. But we were doing it separately, just at the same time.
It's crazy, too, because it's in my mind, I was if she hangs around me, then she'll maybe become more Christian or something. But really, that helped me ultimately find God. But anyway, but keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, we were going through our own things, and ultimately it came to a head, I guess, when we went to a Ty Tribbett concert, as I talked about maybe before, and I got saved at that concert. And then ultimately it led to me finding another church throughout the summer, and I went through another discipling thing with that church, and then I ended up getting baptized with that church and the pastor who is now my current pastor. Mm-hmm. So, it kind of worked out with us. He was dating a non-believer, and it worked out with us. I do think that he was placed in my life for the purpose of, he was that vessel that God used to point me to him. But there are definitely things that we recommend not doing and recommend doing. So we're gonna get into the advice part now, I guess.
So I think the big question is how do you guys feel about Christians dating non-Christians? And I strongly do not advise that at all. Actually, the Bible says specifically says in the New Testament, first in 1 Corinthians, I want to say 7 verse 9. We'll put the verse down here or over our face or somewhere. Yeah. But Paul is essentially that if you are to marry, you are to marry someone who is a believer. Mm-hmm. And that's a clear command in the New Testament. And for me, I was dating with the intention of marrying. And if that is your intent.
Oh, that scared me. Pause.
So I think the big question is do you guys think Christians should date, non-believers? And no. No, Paul clearly states how people who are looking to marry are to marry within the faith community, someone who is also a believer of Christ. But I think something that's even deeper than just that clear command is actually found in Matthew 10 verse 37, where Jesus says, "If you love your father or mother more than you love me, you are not worthy of being my disciple. Or if you love your son or daughter more than me, you are not worthy of being mine." Jesus goes to show if even the person that you love the most you love more than me, then you can't he questions your discipleship, right? And so if you are saying there's someone whose affection or time or love I place more emphasis on, and that person is not even a believer or is rejecting Christ altogether, mm-hmm. It really highlights where your relationship with Christ is at the moment.
The fact, you said it best, the fact that you knew I wasn't a believer, but you were but I like her anyway, so right. I'm going to continue. Right. You're ignoring the commands of the Bible. You're ignoring right. God. It's just not. It's not
right.
a good thing.
And it really highlights a heart issue that you may be having. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, like that was completely. That's why I said like I was serving a God that's not of the Bible, because Christ clearly says like even now, you know what I mean. Who I have a wife who loves Christ, but my love for Christ should still surpass my love for her.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely do not agree with a Christian dating a non-believer.
And then just to go in like, so how I think we should have done it.
Mm-hmm.
So first I think, once he found out I wasn't Christian, I think it should have been like, okay, well we're just friends. And I think people will say, okay, but what about, winning that person over for God? Yeah, that's great if they verbally express that they're interested in it. If they're not interested in it at the moment, you can't like force it on them. And I told him I was interested in it. So what should have happened probably, that I think is, we should have stopped dating. We could have set time and he could have talked to me about God and pointed me to different resources to help me learn about God. But one, I think he shouldn't have been the one discipling me, because obviously there were already romantic feelings there. Yeah, he shouldn't have been the one discipling me. So he can help me get on that path, but he shouldn't have been the one doing it. So that's how I think it kind of should have worked out. And then if I did, ultimately believe in God and he did too when he wasn't dating anyone, then maybe we could revisit that relationship. So I think if that person is not expressing any interest in it at all, then in the words of Eric Roberson, shake her hand and walk away, or his hand, whatever it is, guy or girl. But you just gotta walk away from the situation, and pray for that person, because that's basically the only thing you can do at that point. But yeah, and it seems harsh, but I think that event in the short run, doing that leads to ultimately to less heartbreak in the end.
And the thing is, just like when you do compromise and you say, I'm gonna still be with that person, even though it's not in what I should be doing according to the word, it can lead you to make other compromises. And we'll talk about some of those things that we did end up doing in our next video.
Yes. So that's it for this video. Stay tuned for our video next week. We'll go a little deeper into our relationship after I got saved and dating, intentional dating, dating with a purpose. So stay tuned for that. And outside of that, that's it.
And of course, if you like the video, hit that thumbs up and subscribe and click that notification bell too for future videos just like this one.